Well, this time every year we celebrate and remember the great career of one of the legends of harness racing, Mr. Kevin Robinson, with the running of the Kevin Robinson Free for All. And as per usual, the Robinson family are out in force. Usually I catch up with Chris and his twin AJ, but AJ is on the injured list at the moment, so standing in for AJ, one of the best in the business as well. His brother Terry, I caught up with both Chris and Terry following the running of the race. Gentlemen, it's great to catch up with you once again. As always, Chris, but Terry, very special occasion. Good to catch up with you. Usually you're occupied at Royal Randwick on today with the running of one of the big races.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, Nick. I really appreciate coming here and celebrating what Dad has achieved here. And it's great for the New South Wales Harness Club to recognise him, and yeah, I think it's special.
Terry, what's the first thing that goes through your mind when you see those famous silks that you've worn on many occasions, on many a good horse and won many a good race, and your dad's photo and the story of KJ Robinson?
I just think it's for our family, growing up with Dad and just being involved in the horses, especially the early days of harness racing. They were amazing. It was, as you say, it was one of the best eras in harness racing, and the crowds, the horses, the atmosphere. You just could not help but get involved. And wonderful days, and it's something I'll always cherish. And I'm so glad that my father, or our dad, Kev, is the career he has forged through harness racing and into thoroughbred racing. I think it's amazing.
I think there's no doubt, Terry, that was the golden period of harness racing. When we go back looking at Kevin, J.E. Binskin's next to him. We've got Vic Frost, Brian Hancock. The names just go on and on in this very special honour roll of the true greats.
I couldn't agree more, Mick. As you say, it was a fabulous time, a great era to be part of, and I'm so pleased. Dad gave us the opportunity to be part of it as well.
We're going to do some reminiscing in a minute, Terry, but Chris, always good to see you, and your twin is up there to Moon Moot.
Yeah, poor old AJ, he's got to learn to look after himself a bit better, but he'll be right. He'll be back to normal in a couple of months.
Robinson family, as per usual, having a good night?
Always, mate, yeah. Always special memories coming back here, just getting on the track and getting a feel for it and reminisce about the good old days and the success we had.
They were the good old days, weren't they?
Unbelievable, yeah. It's so exciting. Just honoured to be with Dad and the fam, just to work with it, brothers and sisters, and be involved in the horses and the opportunities Dad gave us, and just having Tez. We just had so much fun.
You've spoken glowing terms of your dad in previous interviews, and rightly so. What about this fellow next to you?
Well, they don't come any better than Dad, but Terry's right up there with him. He's just my idol besides Dad. Growing up, he was just the one that you always wanted to follow around and learn off, and just his ability with whatever he did, whether it was playing golf, footy, just the way he drove horses, he's just up there with the best.
I don't know whether you've shared this with Terry, but you told me earlier in the night something very special your dad said to you. Would you like to repeat it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we were having a beer one night. We used to go a couple of beers before tea and get the giggles up and go home and have tea and get up and do it all the next day. But I said, how good's Terry, Dad? And he said, Dad said to me, he's better than I was. So that's a massive compliment. And, I didn't want to say I agreed, but, it's a great honour and privilege to be involved with both of them, mate.
How does that make you feel, Terry?
Oh, look, I disagree. I think Dad was the man that did it all. He had the horses, he trained them, and I was very fortunate to have driven a lot of his horses, and that followed on from there. So I think I was very privileged.
Geez, you drove some good. Let's have a chat about one in particular, Gammalite. I had the pleasure to talk to Craig Demler last week, and we were talking about the deeds of Pure Steel, but Gammalite, Pure Steel, Popular Run, what a period of racing that was.
Oh, it was a great period, and I was very fortunate to have driven Gammalite 10 times. I won 9 races on him and got pipped one night. But he is just a wonderful horse. He's just a true stayer, a trier, yeah.
He had many wonderful attributes, but I think it was his great will to win and never say die attitude.
Exactly, and I think that's a trait of most of the good horses that race in any era, in any racing game. Yeah.
At the other end of the scale, you had the toughness, the tenacity of Gammalite, and then the sheer brilliance of a Frosty Imp.
Well, that's true too, Mick. And I was fortunate enough to drive a lot of high-speed horses, like a horse called Under a Cloud. He was a real nice horse. Had the privilege of driving him, and Bill's student, a horse called Smart Leader, was a great horse. And you know, even the horses Chris had, he had some beautiful horses. White Thunder. There's a great 2-year-old named Black Lion that we unfortunately never got a chance to show his true ability. And Apollo Creed was a great horse.
He was one of my favourites going around at the time, Apollo Creed. And Chris, you were a very talented arrangeman in your own right, but you also had that happy knack of getting the horses ready at the right time.
Oh, I think I was very lucky. I had really good owners and was able to, purchase these horses and got them at the right time. And yeah, it was unbelievable time for me with the horses and Tez driving them. And yeah, I'll never forget it.
What was the most special lesson you learned from Kevin that you kept with you throughout your career, both in harness racing and then as a galloping trainer, as you did follow the same footsteps as your dad once again?
Well, Dad was never ever critical of any drive I ever drove in. He never, he just knew I knew if I made a mistake, and never ever said to me, well, look, that should have probably won, or that sort of thing. It's the same when even with the jockeys these days, they make a mistake. Well, it's history. That's just part of it, and we all make mistakes. And he never ever criticised me for one drive, and I probably did, muck a few up. But anyway, that's just part of life, part of racing.
Terry, in that wonderful period, as we've been mentioning, your dad stood head and shoulders along with all the greats. Was there anyone in particular that you idolised apart from your dad?
Oh, they're great. They were all great trainer drivers. Like Brian Hancock's a good mate. What he's done in the game. We got to know Vic Frost very well, and look, they're all great trainers. They're fantastic. It's just, as you say, I keep saying back, it's just a great time to be in harness racing, and so privileged to be part of it and enjoy it.
What about as a young driver just starting out? You got your dad you're up against, or getting drives for dad, but you got JE, you got Kevin Newman, Vic Frost, Tony Turnbull, all the greats, all assembled there around at the start. What was it like looking around thinking, geez, look at all, these are some of my idols?
Oh, well, it was probably a little bit overall, but also knew there was a bit of pressure because, obviously Dad was at the top of his game, and if I got behind a horse, well, it was always going to be in the market or expected to perform. And, I was very lucky in that way, but still, that also put a little bit of pressure on you to say, well, hey, you need to perform too. So, yeah.
Is it right your driving career got off to a shaky start? Because your first 2 drives were standing start events and the horse didn't perform too well.
Yeah, I'd only had a few drives and early in my career, and I've won a few, and then Dad got time, and I got a licence to drive at Harold Park very quickly, and I think I'd only had about 10 drives or 12 drives at the time. So, I was on 2 favourites in the first 2 races, so both of them blew the start. So it was a pretty ordinary, in those days, the old hill at Harold Park was lined with a lot of people, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience anyway. Well, the next week I came out and drove a double, so that's how it goes. That's life.
The villain one day, greet the judge on a couple of times. The next time, I can't believe they'd be booing your brother, Ted.
Oh, well, the good old days, mate. If you didn't perform, you just got, bagged. Virtually, they were massive punters back in those days, and if you're a favourite and got beat, well, you paid the price.
Terry, was it always going to be the way you were going to follow in Dad's footsteps as far as the gallopers were concerned?
Oh, look, I didn't learn to ride till I was 18, but in 6 months Dad had me on the gallopers, so I really enjoy riding. The gallopers. It's Dad. He found that the late nights and that were pretty tough. So he's always been he wanted to be a jockey at one stage, but he was too big. So I think it was always part of where he would eventually evolve to, because obviously the money's bigger. And, I had as my brothers rode as well, so he was lucky he had staff, and we were all able to jump on And we really, I must say, we love the Gallopers. They've been a great part of our life as well. So the thoroughbred, we're very fortunate. If you can be in both games, harness racing, harness horses, and also the thoroughbred. So it's been a great life in some ways.
Terry, after experiencing so much success in harness racing and having such a wonderful association through your dad in harness racing, was it hard for you to walk away and go into the gallops?
Not really. Look, I just found that with the Gallopers, when I was working for my dad, like we start at 5 every morning. So, if you were out the trots, I was doing harness, driving trotters late at night and getting home, and I'd be still out on a Friday night. I'd get home at 2 in the morning, I'd be up at 5, and then I'd be going the races all day. And, I had a young family then, and it just started to wear me out a bit, I think. So I think it just was a natural progression to follow Dad into the thoroughbreds, and I think that just had to be the way it progressed.
You've had your success in the thoroughbred industry. What's been the best of them, Terry?
Well, obviously Arcadeau was, highlighted 3 years ago to be associated with him. He won the 2 biggest country races in Australia, and look, it's they're a beautiful animal. Both breeds are beautiful, and I'm just fortunate enough I can still ride. I still find that's a big part of what I enjoy, training horses. So, while I can never do that, I find it's great, and I'm just so privileged. Yeah.
I feel privileged talking to both of you tonight. As always, it's great to see you. We've known each other for many a decade, but it's great to catch up with you tonight, Terry. And as always, Chris, good to see you, my friend.
Thanks, Mick. Really good to see you, mate. Champion. All the best.